had the opportunity to leave the country for the first time at age 38. And I felt like I had waited so long, I was really gonna make this special. I was gonna make it a spiritual quest. I was gonna seek magic and enlightenment, so I decided to go to England. And I was gonna head off into the countryside and see all of these ancient and amazing things that I had always wanted to see. So I made the arrangements for my trip, and I was gonna spend a couple days in London, and then I was gonna head off into the countryside. But the only way for me to do that was to rent a car. So I did. So I drove for my first time out of the country on the wrong side of the road, on the wrong side of the car, and they decided to give me a brand new Audi because they thought the American girl would like it. I begged for something I could trash. They gave me the Audi anyway. My first stop, Stonehenge. I stood there and I soaked in that history and that mystery and the awe, wondering who put it there and why. Then I went to Woodhenge. Do you know there's a Woodhenge? It's right up the street. And then I went to Avebury, which the entire town is a henge. And I walked amongst those stones, and I was in heaven. And then I went to Bath, because that Roman influence was also so cool to me. And then I went to a little town called Stanton Drew. There's nothing there, but in this guy's backyard, there's a henge. And you put a couple coins in this box, and I walked through cows and sheep, and I stood in this henge with my arms aloft, expecting something magical to happen. But I was getting late for my ultimate goal, Glastonbury, the Tor, ancient Avalon. And I had planned on standing there at sunset, again, arms aloft, waiting to get sucked into some magical and ancient place. So I left Stanton Drew, and I drove along, and I have to say, I was higher than I've ever been, getting to see all of these amazing things that I always dreamt of. I was listening to music. I was ecstatic. I was waiting for the sunset on the Tor, and I came around a blind curve, and there was a truck in my lane. And I swerved to avoid the truck, and the tire of the Audi hit the curb and blew. It not only blew, I bent the rim of the brand new Audi, and I was pissed. And in that moment, I went from my highest high to my lowest low as I realized I was stuck there, and this truck didn't even stop, and my trip was interrupted, and I'm an only child. So if my plans are interrupted, this is an exceptionally bad thing. I see the only children nodding their head. I was furious, but I realized I had to pull it together enough to call AAA. Well, their version, which is AA. So I called, and the driver explained it could be up to 2 hours before. 2 hours? I'm gonna miss the sunset, and this was my vacation. This is so unfair. And I wanted to call the States, but my global cell phone was $5 a minute, and I didn't have that kind of budget because I wanted someone to complain to. This was horribly unfair. My first time out of the country, and it was ruined. And I realized I had to pull it together again, and I called the woman who owned the bed and breakfast to let her know that I was going to be really late. So I called her and I said, "Michou, it's Kathy Gruver. I'm on my way, but I'm delayed because the stupid truck came around the corner and it ran me off the road. And it didn't even stop. And so I'm stuck here, and I don't know when And she interrupted me. And she said, "Are you safe?" Am I safe? I don't know if I'm safe, I guess. I don't know. I'm sitting here on the side of the road. People aren't even stopping to see if I'm all right. And so I'm stuck here. So, I guess I don't know. And she interrupted me again. And she said, "Are you looking at something pretty?" What? Am I looking at what is wrong with you people? Am I looking at something pretty? I don't know if I'm looking at something pretty. I'm just stuck here on the side of the road. And she interrupted me for a third time and said, "Well, you'll sit, you'll wait, you'll look at something pretty, you get here when you get here." And the bitch hung up on me. This did not help my mood or my outlook of this entire situation. And I literally started to do the math of, what time is it in California? Can I call a friend? And I realized, well, okay, I don't know how long this is going to take. She's right. So I turned behind me, and there was this hillside with this grass and little shrubbery. This isn't exactly what was behind me because I actually didn't have the thought to take a picture of what was behind me. This is pretty close though. And I kind of looked at that and the sun was starting to move through the sky to set, and it was kind of pretty. So I kicked my legs over this low wall and I sat there. And as I sat there, the sun started to lower and it changed the colors of the hillside, and it went from this green into this golden amber color. And there were sheep and there were cows. And every once in a while the wind would blow and I would catch this smell of this sweet grass. And then the wind would shift again and I could hear the cows and the sheep as they enjoyed this sunset with me. And I don't know how long I sat there, half hour. And finally the tow truck driver came and we changed the tire and I headed on my way. And I was maybe 45 minutes behind schedule. It wasn't earth-shattering, but I did miss the sunset that night on the tour. But that's okay, because I grew to realize that my spiritual quest, the lesson in this for me, the magical thing, was not standing on top of a hill with my arms up hoping to get sucked into some ancient land. It was this woman who basically told me to sit there and shut up, but to change my focus. And that's the first life lesson in this talk, is these 3 little words of change your focus. Because there's always going to be something bad that happens. There's always going to be something that interrupts what we think our future is. The magic are those 3 little words of change your focus. Could I change the truck hit? No. Can I change that the tow truck driver is going to take how long he took? No. But I can change my focus. And that lesson has resonated with me for almost 10 years, and I share that when I do my talks and when I do my writing and when I teach people truly how to meditate, because it's an awesome life lesson. I never know where these lessons are going to come from, and like that one, it came very unexpectedly from someone else. So does this next one. I have a client who's a human resources director, and she's amazing at her job. She's empathic and empathetic, and she's bright, smart as a whip, except when it comes to firing people. She doesn't like that part. I don't know anybody that likes that part, but this one was actually really bad. She was told on a Monday that she had to fire this guy on a Friday, and she was exceptionally upset about this one because they had just brought him into the company and he moved everything to be there. He had just gotten married. They just bought a house. They just found out they were pregnant. And if it couldn't get any worse, it was literally like 2 weeks before Christmas. And in the course of that week of having to build up to let this man go, she started to get more and more upset. And she found herself not eating, and she wasn't sleeping, and she was vomiting, and she had diarrhea, and she would have these crying jags. And how in the world was she going to tell this amazing man in these circumstances that he was going to be let go? And so that Friday afternoon came, and she sat with him in the conference room, and tears were starting to well up in her eyes, and she finally took a big breath and ripped off the proverbial Band-Aid and simply went, "I'm so sorry, we have to let you go." And she started sobbing. And the man stared at her for the longest time, and he finally took a big intake of breath and said, "Oh, thank God, I wanted to quit but wasn't sure how. I found another job." She drove herself crazy for a week with the what if. Haven't we all done that? Up in the middle of the night wondering what if. To quote Thich Nhat Hanh, why suffer twice? Why are we worrying now about these things that we won't even know if they're coming? We don't know. We can't predict the outcome. We can't see around that corner. If we could, I maybe would have seen the truck and I wouldn't have ended up in my first lesson. This why suffer twice goes hand in hand with the change your focus, because really it's all about being in the now. It's being about being here. Because here there's no stress. It's behind us in things we're thinking about, and in front of us in things we're worried about in the future that may or may not even come. Change your focus, and why suffer twice? The third lesson is all my own. It's the 3 little words, go for it. That was my motto in high school. I don't know why. I don't know why I picked it. I don't know where it came from. But now that I've matured into an adult, I realize, wow, yeah, it actually does fit me. I've been spelunking and rappelling, ziplining, parasailing, paragliding, skydiving, scuba diving, snorkeling. I've swum with sharks, I've swum with dolphins. I've been whitewater rafting where I've gone over a 15-foot waterfall twice. I jumped off a 20-foot cliff into very icy water. I kind of regret that one. And I've been race car driving. So when I said to my friends, I'm going to start do flying trapeze, they said, of course you are. There's so many things that are cool about flying trapeze. And I actually thought it would be this one-off thing. You know, I thought I'd do it once and be like, oh, okay, I did that. That was fun. No, totally addicted. Because trapeze is, well, it's a couple lessons, one of which is it does illustrate that go for it thing. I hear so many people talking about these things they want to do that they don't. They want to write a book. They want to go back to school. They want to go to England. They want to do these things, and they don't. And they write this bucket list, and they shove it in a drawer, and they don't see it again until they're 80 or they're terminal, and then they look at it and go, I guess I'm not getting to Albuquerque. Why are we waiting? And granted, some things have to wait. Some things you do need time and money for. My trip around the world, it's going to have to wait a little bit. But if it's something you can do, why are you not doing it? What are you waiting for? Because as much as we have to stay in the now, we've got to plan for the then. And so trapeze is that thing for me. It's that I always wanted to try it. I can. Go for it. The other thing that's so cool about trapeze is it's a parallel for life. There's this thing you have to do, and it's kind of scary, but it's kind of exciting, and you look up at that trapeze rig and go, oh, I don't know. And then you get to that 30-foot ladder, and you look up and you think, man, that looks really high. I don't know if I can do that. And you start to climb, and you get halfway up, and you realize you're not as in good a shape as you thought you were. But you move on, and you keep doing it, and you get to the top, and the view up there is amazing. And you stand at the edge of that very small platform, and they hand you a bar, and it's kind of heavy, and it starts to pull you out, but you have the strength and the perseverance to wait till just the right moment when they say, ready, you bend your knees, and hep, you leap off that board. And you fly through the air, and you get caught because there's someone there for you. There's someone there for you. There's always someone there for you. And you know what? If they happen to miss you, you fall into the net. Because there's also always a net. Sometimes we don't know the net is there, but we land it and go, oh God, thank God that was there. It's this mindfulness practice of being in the here and the now and enjoying it. Because frankly, with trapeze, if you're not in the here and now, if you're not focused and present, you're not only going to mess up your trick, you're probably going to get hurt. And I've done that twice. It's been a very hard lesson for me on that one. But it's about seeking out these opportunities and grabbing life by the horns and doing it. I have the privilege of traveling around the world. And when I do, I want to experience that culture. And I want to experience that food and that environment. I was just in South Africa. And I went to a very traditional South African restaurant, and I had warthog carpaccio. And the waiter thought I was nuts. What's with this white chick from the States ordering warthog carpaccio? And I looked at him and I said, you know what, when am I ever going to get this again? And you know what? If I don't like it, I don't have to finish it. But I want to know I tried it. So to me, life is actually pretty simple. It's about these 3 sets of 3 words, these 9 little words of change your focus, why suffer twice, and go for it. Because whether you get on a plane and you fly around the world, or you climb that 30-foot ladder and you fly on me with a trapeze, no matter what you do, you're going to soar. Thank you.